Throughout my childhood, I was told that Christmas was the day that marked the birth of Jesus Christ, and to much of the world, that is still how it's viewed. But in reality, we don't actually know when Jesus was born because the people from that time were inconsiderate and didn't have the decency to mark such a date on a calendar that wouldn't exist for another 1600 years. So what is Christmas? Well, it's most likely a Christian adaptation of a handful of Northern European festivals such as Germanic Yuletide and pagan winter solstice rituals. And one thing that many of these archaic festivals shared was not a focus on merriment and joy, but rather a fear of the dark. If celebrations such as Samhain were to welcome in the cold winter months, Yuletide and the solstice were defiant symbols of perseverance. So, I can't quite remember where I was going with this. Something Christmas is actually Halloween Part 2, but with snow and a funny tree. But unlike Halloween, which attracts many kinds of horror, Christmas invites a very specific type. A cozy, nostalgic kind of horror. Like if you watched Home Alone with a modified soundtrack and slightly altered grade. And there are certain games that carry that vibe perfectly, and today I'm going to show you the top 5 horror games that remind me of Christmas. I do not think there is a more Christmassy setting than Victorian London. We can thank stories like A Christmas Carol for that, but it's also possibly due to the gritty industrial grime of the era, the increasing societal and economic importance of mass manufacturing, the turmoil of the working class, and the cultural erasure that was rampant at the time. Those things could also contribute. And Amnesia, A Machine for Pigs drags us headfirst into this with a story all about family, greed, and hubris. The 3 cornerstones of Christmas. And you could make an argument that Amnesia The Dark Descent and Amnesia Rebirth do something similar, which is true, but they're not as cozy. At least not in the traditional sense. And I know I've bad-mouthed A Machine for Pigs a lot in the past, but by God does it get me in the mood. For Christmas, I should specify. Beginning in a grand old manor before sweeping the silent winter streets, then delving into the disgusting mechanical gullet of the Mandus meat processing plant, is truly the kind of juxtaposition I think we all need to get in the mood for, I don't know, the Polar Express. And with the main antagonistic forces being humanoid pigs, the very personification of gluttony and filth, it's impossible to think of any other season. You also get to post presents to yourself from like 2 rooms away. Merry Christmas, Mandus. I know you wanted your kids back, but I got you this acid instead. I thought I'd throw a bone to all of the Christmas purists out there with this one. I mean, you literally attack people with crucifixes and holy water in this. Vatican approved. But beyond that, you literally spend all of this game reuniting your family and receiving gifts from them while banishing darkness and murdering heretics. That's pure Yule right there. There's even a cool dog. Now ain't that precious? But the warm colours, cold weather, cramped castle walls, and desperate sense of fleeting time on top of the previously mentioned Victorian vibe is what really does it for me. Slaying ghouls, demons, and interlopers on a stormy night with your trusty cane sword and a selection of firearms, all in a grand effort to save you and your extended family, is a wholesome, if not dire, scenario. And I think that's exactly the feeling that we're aiming for in these festive times. Do keep in mind, however, that this does contain quite a few jump scares, and by quite a few I mean they happen in almost every room later in the game, but honestly I became kind of immune to them, especially after my nightmare difficulty playthrough. But you know what? Jump scares are Christmassy. They're like little surprises. Boo! Thanks, Satan. Also, a shout out to my main man Greg. You alright, big man? Don't worry, okay, I hear you. Call of Duty is not a horror series, and like, bro, this is too mainstream. What happened to you, bro? Go back to talking about terrorism simulators and PUBG and Orion Prelude. Well, firstly, Call of Duty Zombies is, at the very least, horror-themed, and some of the earlier entries had some genuinely scary atmospheres. Secondly, I will do whatever I goddamn want. You heretic? You melon? You fool? I'll use one of those, I don't know. So, this is quite a personal one to me. I have extremely vivid and nostalgic memories of sitting beside one of my best friends from school, drinking hot chocolate and annihilating undead Nazi scum with strangely enchanted weapons, back in late 2010, when life seemed a lot simpler, but also simultaneously seemed much worse. I'm having a pretty rad time these days. And every time I go back to the decrepit halls of Kino der Toten, or the chaotic laboratories of 5, some of that warmth comes back to me, as the rotting corpses of war criminals try to consume my skin. I think the arcadey feel of it, coupled with its dark subject matter and visuals, gives me Christmas vibes too. It's based on an objectively very grim subject, but it plays in a more fun sense than anything else. There are other parts too, like the claustrophobia, the color palettes, the mystery box and so on that also contribute, but for the most part, it's all in my nostalgia. And I imagine you'll all have similar games too. One of the Penumbra games was bound to be on here, but which one? Probably not the one you expect. Penumbra Requiem. This may surprise some of you, as it's sort of the strange step-sibling of the series, deviating from the intense survival horror of the first two to a more laid-back horror-themed puzzle game. But I think this strange, uncanny laid-back feeling is what does it for me. Have you ever been alone in a snowy forest at night, where all the animals have burrowed or migrated away? The wind lies still, and the snow absorbs all ambient noise to leave you in a state of paranoid serenity? No, and neither have I, but just imagine that feeling. That's the atmosphere of Requiem. A cozy yet ferociously cold atmosphere with the constant malice of some unknown spectator, yet you're never actually in any immediate danger. The game is also snowy at one point, which is kinda cute, and certainly helps. Going back to a story I mentioned earlier, A Christmas Carol is relevant here as well. You're basically going through some strange, warped memories of your past while voices from beyond comment on your actions. Except, rather than being a redemption story about a crotchety old man, it's a horrible exploration of cosmic insanity. But hey, cosmic horror has Christmas too. When coming up with the idea for this, only one game truly jumped out at me. Five Nights at Freddy's. Forget the extended series, the books, the game theories, and the seemingly endless lore. Instead, just picture this. You're a security guard in a children's entertainment facility pulling the night shift, and something is wrong. That's all the information you need to enjoy this game. But as for the Christmassy elements, there's plenty. You spend the game defending yourself from these, frankly horrific animatronics with the appearance of oversized toys. You're surrounded by constant reminders of cheap corporate joy. You're in a dusty, warm room, yet you're entombed in walls of cold industrial steel, concrete, and glass. And most of all, there's some pretty cool party hats, yo. No game has ever reminded me more of the nights leading up to and succeeding Christmas. Sat alone, late at night on your computer, while a dreadful quiet hangs over the world. And there's the inescapable feeling that there's something sinister lurking in the winter's impenetrable darkness. And you're also being chased by a big furry. You might say that this feeling does not remind you of Christmas at all, or you may even be completely unable to relate to what I mean. But that's okay. That just shows that modern Christmas is doing its job. Now it's a happy time for love and celebration and gifts, but that's not how it began. It began because of the dark, and the cold, and the uncertainty of the winter. It began because of fear. Merry Christmas.